crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadrooter.com with your morning horn disease, your sip of chaga coffee. I apologize for my voice. A wine event last night, which is always fun. My family owns a vineyard, if you didn't know that. And yeah, when wine starts flowing, look out. All right, let's talk about some really interesting stuff. I can't talk about this video discussion I just had. I got interviewed by a friend of mine who he's been kicked off YouTube, so I can't mention even his name or his website. But if you go to roadrooter.com, right at the top, see that little name right there? Click on that video and watch that video. I'll sneak in the name, but YouTube is crazy. YouTube is nuts about censorship and all that. So go check that out. Really good discussion on the precipice of total collapse. Woo! When we are. Everything's coming true, and it's going to happen faster and faster, so hang on tight. Silver spiked, supposedly because of this. Inflation slowed in April amongst cooling U.S. economy. It's all bullshit. Everything's bullshit. The spike wasn't caused by the announcement of inflation. It was caused by a click of a mouse. As you can see here. Right there, the mouse was clicked. These aren't free market types of moves, by the way. Somebody was messing with you. It looks like they were trying to get you in, and then they slam it down. It is. People ask me, how can they control it? How can they keep controlling it? They've been controlling the price of silver for 170 years. 170 years. The key is in the end, they're not going to want to control it. This is an uncontrollable type of thing. Anybody buying silver right now, your grandkids, your great-grandkids are going to say, oh, Uncle Bix was the man. He set our family up for generations to come. Absolutely. Get your silver while you can. They're slamming it now. Buy it when it's down, obviously. Do the opposite of what the world does. Buy assets when they're cheap, sell them when they're expensive. There is no cheaper asset on the planet than silver. Silver's at less, as of right now, almost. It's 50% of its all-time high in 1980, for Christ's sake. 1980. 43 years of silver price suppression has distorted the price of silver. Think about gold in 1980, $800, and now it's over $2,000. More than double, coming on triple, because gold doesn't matter to the bankers and the market riggers. Doesn't matter. They have so much of it, and they know there's so much gold out there. Yes, they want it. We're going to move to a gold standard, absolutely. But if you're looking to secure your future, if you're looking for an asset that's gold on steroids, silver is the call, obviously. Obviously. If you've been watching my show, you'll understand. If you watched that discussion I had yesterday, you'll understand the urgency of getting physical assets in your own possession now. Luckily, almost everybody who watches this has already done it. They got their money out of the bank. They got their stash of silver. They got their stash of cryptos. And if you don't, I'm going to show you why you have to. So yeah, we had a CPI. Again, the CPI number is a rigged number. But they didn't. It's 4.9. And where did they get 4.9? Now, CPI is the Consumer Price Index from 1 year ago today, or whenever the end date, the end of the month. 1 year ago. That's how CPI is calculated. It's a 1 year running total. Look what went down and everything else went up. Right here, you have major categories, all items up 4.9%. That's the current CPI. But you have food up 7.7% since a year ago. And all other items, all major categories except food and energy, is 5.5%. What went down? Right here. Look at that. Energy down 5.1%. Now, why is this? It's so obvious. Joe Biden is selling all the oil out of the strategic reserve stocks. Strategic petroleum reserve stocks have gone from over, in July of 2020, it was 656 million barrels. Now, today, it's half of that. And supposedly we were supposed to be at the bottom. Otherwise, we get really screwed. And a lot of these, like natural gas, for example, if you're going to store natural gas, you have to have they store it in these huge salt caverns for the most part. You have to have a base gas in there. Say it holds 10 trillion cubic feet. You need 3 trillion cubic feet as a base gas so the whole thing doesn't collapse. So this number, now I'm not so sure about the petroleum reserves, the storage areas and all that. But from what I'm hearing, it's bottomed out. Joe can't sell anymore. And we're getting into territory where he's got to refill it. How are you going to refill it without driving the price of energy way up and absolutely killing people this summer, by the way, with inflation? I do think after this, I think this is the last downclick in inflation. I think it's going to run up from here as the system gets destroyed. And here's the rumors floating around. Oil up again as an unidentified source says the U.S. reserves to be refilled. Are they really going to shoot themselves in the foot, or would they rather shoot the United States in the foot and just drain all the oil out of everything and keep the price below $100 by doing that? And then you have no strategic oil. Then you're screwed. This is a long game for the riggers. So when you hear unidentified sources, it's a con job. All right. Speaking of con jobs, got this. A subscriber sent it to me. This is from the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Board of Governors, Federal Reserve System, a presentation on the impact of rising rates on certain banks and supervisory report. This is a quarterly report that they do, and they analyze. It's like a quarter and a half behind. So this was posted to the public in April 2023. This was presented to the Board of Governors of the Fed on February 14th, about a month before or half a month before Silicon Valley Bank went down. Just keep that in mind. And this is looking at data all the way back from third quarter of last year. And what is the most scary thing is on page 6. Well, these are unrealized losses on investment securities. Look at that. How could they not know the system was in peril looking at that graph? But look at this, page 6. A growing number of unrealized losses that threaten capital. At the third quarter end, 722 banks reported unrealized losses exceeding 50% of capital. Remember, these are fractionally reserved banks. So every dollar they get in, they lend out $9 for a 10-to-1 average. Or something in that. I think it's a little higher now, too. Every dollar they get in, they get to create out of thin air and put it out on loans 9 or 10 times. That's great for your assets, your profit. Everything's going up because you're creating money out of thin air. 10 times the amount of money that you're paying a tiny bit of interest on. And that's wonderful. As things are rising, that's glory days for the bankers. What happens when they start falling? If they lose 10%, they got to get rid of 10% of their tier 1 capital. They got to get rid of all kinds of assets, 9 times the assets. And what's going on right now is because they raised interest rates, all these assets that they bought are underwater. They haven't booked the losses. And the Fed's clearly stating it, the losses exceed over 50% of capital. It gets better. 31 of these banks report negative tangible equity levels. Banks reporting negative tangible equity are currently not able to borrow new money from the federal home loan banks and may lose the ability to sell loans to the government-sponsored enterprises. Some banks are taking action to further market losses, including changing the accounting treatment of their securities. Isn't that crazy? How do you get out of 50% losses on your assets? Let's change the accounting treatment. Hedging their daily interest rates. Great, they're using derivatives. All the banks use derivatives. So when a bank fails, what happens to the derivatives? That's a counterparty loss. Retaining more tangible capital. The decisioning around such actions is complex, particularly in smaller banks where securities have been used for liquidity purposes and expertise with hedging is limited. So this is February. The Federal Reserve knew there were 722 banks as of the end of the third quarter that had lost 50% of their capital. and then it goes down. But here's an interesting thing. Look at page 9. An example of financial risk. This is a report on the third quarter, but it's being presented in February of this year, before Silicon Valley Bank anybody knew anything was wrong. Example. Now this is for Fed eyes only, and they released it a month later. SVB, the 18th largest U.S. banking organization, has significant interest rate risk. The bank used significant deposit growth to purchase long maturity securities. Since year-end 2019, the investment portfolio as a percentage of total assets grew 17 percentage points to 56%. They have 56%. Their investment portfolio grew. Yields on purchases were low due to the rate environment, and portfolio duration increased. At the end of the third quarter, 2022, total unrealized losses to capital totaled 110%. How can they lose more than they have total capital? It's easy when you leverage up massive amounts and you just don't declare your losses. Since rates began increasing, the bank has lost nearly 8% of its deposits, and the company is executing on its contingency funding plan to maintain appropriate liquidity. Interest rate risk measurements failed to estimate sensitivity to interest rates, resulting in higher funding costs. Silicon Valley Bank's weakness in market risk management and high IRR exposure has resulted in sensitivity to market risk component, downgraded to 3 or fair. Supervisory matter requiring attention to improve reliability of interest rate risk. Heightened supervisory attention to assess corrective action and ongoing rating accuracy. So they knew, the Fed knew, of course they knew that Silicon Valley Bank was about to go down. Are they going to tell you? No. Did they tell you that 722 banks were pretty much in the same position as Silicon Valley Bank? No, they still haven't told us that. They tell us everything's fine, don't worry about it. Life is good, don't worry about it. Well, the FDIC doesn't think that. For you people on the road to Ruta, I posted this on the private, no, this is a public road. Go to YouTube. And a few weeks ago, I posted alert, November 9th, 2022 meeting. FDIC is broken. Decided to hide the truth from the public. Here is what the FDIC meeting on November 9th, 2022. I'm going to play part of it and discuss it. And then I have a new piece that came out. It tells us when this is all going to happen. Check this out.
Be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim, right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do.
Little giggle on that. More full faith. The public, because they're not knowledgeable about what's going on, has more faith and confidence in the banks than the FDIC does. The insurance company that insures the bank. By the way, the FDIC has 1.26% of their total insured as a source of funds. That's it. Just 1% of all that they insure, they have 1%. So they can't insure even a tiny 92% or 98%. They couldn't do that. They don't have the money. Listen, they go on. They're kind of giggly, but listen to what they're saying.
We want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
I wondered whether there are some market tests of whether you're being heard. And I think about TLAC. So TLAC should respond to good and bad news about the institutions. And it's really important. I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution, but they have.
Whoa. People understand that they can be bailed in. People have been talking about this for so long, and I'm going to tell you why it's not going to happen. But the very fact that it's not going to happen is going to change everything in the new system.
I mean, they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices. This is similar to what Jay was saying in the market, that you can tell whether people understand who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected. It would be, I think, an interesting study to look at.
That would be an interesting study. Who would be protected and who's not going to be protected? Now, we know now that Silicon Valley Bank went down. A few banks have gone down. The very first two were Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. Were they protected? At first, the FDIC said, no, just the $250,000. That's it. Per account at a bank. That's it. And then Oprah Winfrey with $400 million in Silicon Valley Bank comes screaming, you got to bail me out, you got to bail me out. And then Janet Yellen gets together with Jerome Powell and the president and say, yeah, we're going to bail out everybody at Silicon Valley Bank. And we're going to give a $50 billion, oh, that was the next one. The FDIC gave a $50 billion loan for the JP Morgan transaction. The FDIC didn't have it to loan out. Otherwise, they're already below what there should be as far as the balance of the FDIC bailout money. So listen, I'm going to move on to another part of this discussion. This is, again, the FDIC meeting of November 9th, 2022. And if you're wondering, when is it going to happen, Bix? When are the banks going to shut down? When are they going to announce, oh my God, the banks are insolvent? I can't tell you what calendar date it's going to be, but I can tell you when. And as a matter of fact, let's just hear the FDIC tell you when.
If and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works. And we can see how this will happen. Of course, there will be doubters, but there's a lot of things going on. What we want to hear from you today is what you think the priorities would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title.
There it is. Friday night. Get ready on a Friday night, probably late Friday night, when they're ready to shut down every bank on the planet. They're going to announce it on a Friday night after the markets close. Now, will they get their shit together by Monday morning? Hell no. No. What do you think they're talking about? They're talking about the destruction of the global unbacked fiat monetary system. They're talking about the end of the US dollar. They're talking about the end of the FDIC itself. Again, the FDIC has somewhere around $100 billion, and they insure trillions of dollars. Tens of trillions. I think it's 11 trillion or 12 trillion. That's all they have. Now, where are they going to get the money? Could it be that Janet Yellen will say, oh, we're going to bail out everybody on, I don't care if you're a U.S. company, a U.S. depositor, or a foreign depositor, we're going to bail out everybody. What happens to the U.S. dollar then? What happens to the faith and confidence of the U.S. dollar? This has always been in the works. The question is, when was somebody going to push the button? Nobody has to push the button. All they got to do is stand back, take your hands off it, and watch the car careen over the cliff. As I talked about yesterday, yes, the Congress has evidence that the Biden family corruption, millions and millions of dollars from all kinds of bad actors, foreign countries, and all that. Does that matter? We live in a rogue country. There is no rule of law anymore. They just found Trump guilty of some ridiculous claim that happened, 30, 40 years ago? That the person said, oh, he raped me. So the jury comes back and said, well, it wasn't rape, but he did something. So we're gonna charge Trump $5 million because he did something. What? What kind of world do we live in? Is anything going to happen to Joe Biden or Hunter Biden? Probably not. They know we're way past beyond the understanding that we have a country that is run by laws. We don't. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure the Republicans will have fun. But, I mean, we've heard it all. We've heard it all before. And what happens? Nothing. Nothing. We're living in a freaking play. And tomorrow, or 2 days, the open the border goes completely open. They're lining up outside our border right now. Hundreds of thousands of people coming in. They're just going to open the border. Come on in. So say the Democrats. You want to destroy a country? You open your borders. Wait, just wait. Everybody's going to come in. Silver's going to run to $1,000 an ounce, and everybody's going to run out down to Mexico, and Mexico will finish building the wall because they don't want all those people coming back home. Because they want their wealth in the ground. They've been abused long enough. It's not like Mexicans think it's a great time in the United States where they don't speak the language. Some of them. No, they're fleeing because it's a better life. What if it's no longer a better life, but Mexico, because of $1,000 an ounce silver, is a better life? You don't think in a blink of an eye every single illegal immigrant's not going to run back home? Of course they will. And again, when Trump met with the president of Mexico, came back and said, yes, we agreed that Mexico is going to pay for the wall. That's what he was talking about. Trump knows exactly what's going on with our monetary system and the suppression of the price of silver. He knows it. Everybody knows it. I did hear that Elon Musk just bought a lithium mine or something to that effect. You don't think Elon Musk knows how much silver is the most important thing in all his businesses? His solar panels, his electric cars? He's no dummy. So how is he getting all his silver? Well, about 100 million ounces or so every month comes out of the COMEX over to London for delivery. Is that Musk building a massive pile of silver just to run his companies in the future? And how long would that last? Not very long. Silver is the most important investment you can make right now to save your ass. All right. And I just had to throw this in at the end. I left Oakland almost 2 years now, year and a half ago, because of the stuff like this. The woke cities are being destroyed. And now the teachers union, who used to say, this is in Oakland, they're on strike, they've been on strike for a week, who used to say, it's for our children, it's for our children. Now they're claiming they're striking for climate change. That's how insane. We just had Governor Gavin Newsom have a committee to say how much black reparations we have to pay. Are you kidding me? We were never a slave state. Nobody in California who's going to get this money, they're saying $800 billion. Nobody, not one person in this state has been a slave. It has always been illegal to own slaves in California. And yet Gavin Newsom and this crazy woke ideology and the people who are currently our governors, are people in the California legislature, think it's cool to give $800 billion of my money to people who have never been slaves and never will be slaves. And it's always been illegal in California. This is insane. We've hit that point of insane where the laws don't matter. By this summer, I think we're not going to pay any more taxes. Everybody's just going to say, hell no. I'm going to pay Joe Biden to give money to Ukraine to shovel it back into his own pocket, into the Democrats' pocket through FTX. No. At some point, we just got to say no. And a collective no is coming. So, yeah, that's where we are. You want to join the Road to Ruta? I am giving away a silver Ruta coin with every subscription. Still, when silver hits $30, I think instantly it'll run to 50, and then it's gone. So this giveaway will go away. After 50, there is no stopping silver. And then we start looking at the gold-silver ratio, going from 80 to 1 right now down to 1 to 1, where it should be. And why do I say 1 to 1? Because there's 6 billion ounces of gold, supposedly, and there's 6 billion ounces of silver above ground that we can get our hands on. That's a 1 to 1 ratio. It's coming out of the ground at 7 to 1. But remember, at 7 to 1, it's coming out, the gold is about 100% monetary investment type of gold. Silver is 60% industrial. So only 40% of that's going into the investment. The silver story is so amazing. I hope you guys, and I know probably 90% of people watching this video have a great big stack of silver at home or at their, don't Keep it in a safe deposit box, whatever you do. Don't keep anything in a safe deposit box. You own gold and silver to secure your wealth for the future. You don't own it to make money. You don't. If you did, you would have quit a long time ago. You own it because you know the system is about to be destroyed and you want to retain your wealth for the next system. You don't go put it back into the banking system. The banks will and have crack open your savings deposit box and take everything inside of it. Absolutely. They've already done it many times. When the system falls apart, don't you think the managers are going to do it first? They're going to run in there and, oh my God, grab what you can. I got to take care of my family. It's like the people who guard the vaults of the third-party storage of your metal. You don't think they're going to crack that safe open and say, well, I know it's my job. I'm getting paid $20 an hour to guard this stuff, but my family needs me to get them some wealth, and this is where it is. They're going to open the vault and take it all. In your own possession only these days. That's where we are. I had a great discussion with Ken Swartz of Purple Power C60, and I'm going to post that. Most of it's on private road, my friends, because we talk about stuff you can't talk about on. Go check it out. This is Bix Weir. I'll talk to you later.